Okay, hello. Today is the February the 21st, and today is the birthday of this remarkable Dutch architect, the father of nothing else but the father of modern Dutch architecture. So here he is, Hendrik Petrus Berlage. I checked again how to pronounce correctly Berlage, and I'm still not sure I do. And through the Zoom system, I don't know if my attempt at being scrupulous about this is noticeable. Anyway, I'll try my best. Was a Dutch architect born the 21st of February, 1856, about 20 or 21 years or 22 years now. Le Corbusier was born, I think, in I always confuse, 1887 or 1878. Anyway, he was older than Le Corbusier and died in August before the war. Good for him that he died before the war. Berlage has studied architecture at the Zurich Institute of Technology for 3 years between 1875 and 1878, after which he traveled extensively for 3 years through Europe. In 1880s, he formed a partnership in the Netherlands with Theodore Sanders, which produced a mixture of practical and utopian projects. Here I would stop for a second and I will ask, what utopian projects are you doing? A published author, Berlage held memberships in various architectural societies, including Congrès International d'Architecture Moderne, Siam I. Berlage was influenced by the neo-Romanesque brickwork architecture of Henry Hobson Richardson, the one who, together with Frank Lloyd Wright and Louis Sullivan, are considered the trinity of the founders of modern architecture in the United States, and of the combination of structures of iron seen with brick of the castle of the three echoes of Domenici Montaner. This influence is visible in his design for the Amsterdam Commodities Exchange, for which he would also draw on the ideas of Viollet-le-Duc. As you can see, this architect, and not only this architect, plunged into the past, was aware of what was happening both in the past and during his present. The load-bearing bare brick walls and the notion of the primacy of space and of walls as the creators of form would be the constitutive principles of the, let me see, I will not attempt to read this, so I will allow you to read it for yourselves. I really have a problem with the Dutch language. A visit Berlage made to the United States in 1911, so this was rather late. You know, he was born in 1856, so at 55, he made a trip to the United States, greatly affected his architecture. From then on, the organic architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright would be a significant influence. Lectures he gave when he returned to Europe would help to disseminate Wright's thoughts in Germany. A notable overseas commission was the 1916 Holland House, built as offices for a Dutch shipping company in Bury Street in the city of London, behind Norman Foster's 30 St. Mary Axia of 2003. We are going to see that project. Considered the father of modern architecture in the Netherlands and the intermediary between the traditionalists and the modernists, Berlage's theories inspired most Dutch architectural groups of the 1920s, including the traditionalists, the Amsterdam School, the Still, and the New Objectivists. He received the British Riba Royal Gold Medal in 1932. He died in August 1934 in The Hague. His son, also named Hendrik Petrus Berlage, was an astronomer in Royal Magnetic and Meteorological Observatory in Batavia, Dutch East Indies, now Jakarta in Indonesia, whose name has been immortalized as a lunar crater. Great. But let's dwell a little bit on this. So he influenced very diverse groups of architects: the Amsterdam School, the Still, the New Objectivists, and the Traditionalists. So he was quite a personality, being able to influence such almost divergent groups of architectural groups. And since I think it's important to stress the significance of the past for us today, I would ask my honorable Romanian audience, what groups do you take part in? Okay, let's move forward. Here was the man, and he does look like a serious and sensitive man, and he, you know, with an appreciable aptitude, I would say, for introspection. We are going to see most of his important works. The most famous being the one here on the right in Amsterdam, but we'll arrive there. Here he is again, you know, a dreamer. I think he was a dreamer. And I truly think great architects are just that, dreamers. Because if you don't dream, how are you going to arrive at the poetry that great architecture is? You have to be a dreamer. You look at him, you know, he is clearly daydreaming, clearly. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm not wrong. The influence, he was influenced by the architecture of H.H. Richardson, and this is a lesser known architect, but unjustly so, because he was truly a great North American architect. And I'll just show a few examples of Richardson architecture so we can see the relationship with the works of Hendrik Berlage. This is a church in Boston, built by H.H. Richardson, which is also on the cover of a volume dedicated to modern architecture that Francesco Del Cosce and Manfredo Tafuri wrote on modern architecture, a series from the series of 18 volumes, the history, the world history, the history of world architecture. Another building by a massive, large building built by H.H. Richardson. Another one, H.H. Richardson, who was inspired apparently by Romanesque architecture. Most architects, of course, prefer to be inspired by Renaissance architecture. In the 19th century, many were inspired by the Gothic, but he was inspired by what was prior to the Gothic, and that is the Romanesque architecture. And here he was. Unfortunately, he died young, but he built a lot, truly a lot. And I love the way he looks. He looks romantic. He looks unusual, unconventional. I'm very sad he died young, but he built a lot. So again, the triad of three geniuses, let's call them this way, with this problematic word, geniuses in North American foundational architecture were right. Well, actually, first H.H. Richardson, then Louis Sullivan, and then Frank Lloyd Wright, the three of them. Another building by H.H. Richardson, and you can see the massivity and the kind of architecture he built. You see the influence of Romanesque architecture. He was an excellent architect, he truly was. Now we look at some works by Berlage. We begin with an early work from 1894, the Villa Heymans in Groningen. And you see there is a distinctive historicism in his work at that time. But it was, you know, it was 1894. So I think it took some time for him to arrive at more modernism, so to speak. But there was always in his work duality. It was as if he was looking both forward and backwards. I mean, to inspire simultaneously the traditionalists and the new objectivists, it says a lot. Or the School of Amsterdam and the Steel, because these were actually, opposite, they represented opposite forms of doing art and doing architecture. I think this testifies about the complexity of Hendrik Berlage. So this is one of his earliest works. Villa, of course, he used a lot of brick, and the Dutch are excellent working with brick, and they use it a lot. And maybe even the paintings of Piet Mondrian could be approximated. At least some of them, maybe the earlier ones, the earlier abstract ones, as depicting some kind of bricks. Yes, the brick is a magical material, and it never fails you. Both Frank Lloyd Wright and Louis Kahn had the most generous words about the brick, and the brick does deserve it. It's true. Frank Lloyd Wright thought that, he asked, give me a brick and I'll transform it into its equivalent in gold. While, Louis Kahn even had conversations with the brick, like the famous, I asked the brick what it wants to be, and the brick said, I want to be an arch. Now another villa by Berlage, Villa Henny in the Hague, the capital of the Netherlands. I mean, look at this, I think it's magical. It's a beautiful interior. It's dramatic. It's coherent structurally. If I would build something like this today, I would be proud of myself. But I don't have this occasion. Towards the exterior, the building has, again, like in the previous building that we saw, historicist elements. But these historicist elements are not necessarily a deficiency. This is how the building looks today. And of course, the interior is as of today, maybe a little bit too polished for my taste and too refurbished, but anyway. A building by Berlage, one of the earliest buildings by him. Now, the first Church of Christ, the Scientist, well, there is apparently such a church, the Church of Christ Scientist. What about the first Church of Christ Artist? Well, maybe I had an idea now, spontaneously. Let's initiate some steps in this direction. The first Church of Christ Artist. I'm a little bit tired of the Scientists, I confess. Okay, here it is. Does it look like a church? Maybe not so much. But being that is the Church of Christ the Scientist, maybe then we could accept a little bit, but it could have been a city hall, it could have been many things, if you look at the building. And if you didn't have here the wording, you probably would not have known that it is a church or it was a church. Probably still is. The Netherlands, they have many cathedrals and many churches. I have myself some books here. I was lucky to find them at the second-hand bookstore, Dutch books, and I was amazed how many great cathedrals they have. Truly great. I will talk soon about another Dutch architect, Kuipers, who built many neo-Gothic cathedrals, quite nice, quite convincing, quite dramatic. Villa Simons, 1913 in The Hague again. Here we already see elements of unconventionality because of the canopy at the top of the building is rather, unusual. maybe it's not so apparent in this view, but you know, from the side, it strikes one as being rather modern, so to speak. But again, the brick wall, the beautiful brick wall, which almost by itself, you know, if you just build a brick wall, it doesn't need anything. It doesn't need an opening. It doesn't even need to be a building. It's beautiful. Why? Because it's transformed earth. A brick is you know, is made of earth, of clay. And I don't know. I'm maybe not very inspired now to compose ad hoc a poem dedicated to the brick, but the brick deserves it. It does deserve it. And I think great architects never hide the brick behind plaster or anything. No, the brick should be allowed to show itself without the makeup, because it is beautiful like this. I don't know how they do it to protect it from the elements, maybe the quality of the bricks, I don't know, but I'm sure there are solutions, because many architectures and architects use the brick like this, uncovered by anything, without finishes, so-called finishes. Now, lodge built in 1916, St. Hubertus Lodge. This is a large building. I don't know why it is called a lodge, but look at this. It's huge. Look. Actually, the Dutch have often have, Dudok also has, and not only him, there are remarkable Dutch architects who use a very, you know, almost ostentatious vertical, like we see here. It's like a signal, like, you know, like a clock tower. I don't know. I mean, we cannot really say that it's a remarkable sense of harmony here or balance, because the verticality of the vertical part of the building is rather overwhelming, I would say. But anyway, maybe that's why that's how the Dutch fight the, you know, the problems of living 1/3 of the country under the level of the sea. So maybe that verticality expresses their desire to live above the level of the sea. I don't know. Hendrik Berlage, Petrus, a beautiful middle name. I'm curious why the Dutch do not get tired of so much good architecture. I mean, it's just unbelievable how many great architects they had, and artists, of course, if we are to mention only Vincent van Gogh and Rembrandt, but they had many others. It's a special country, it really is. Now, this is a museum now. I don't know what it was initially, but it's one of the great buildings by Berlage, and this one is a little more modern, maybe more than a little more, yes. You see, maybe here you can see some influences coming from across the ocean, but maybe also from within the country. Unfortunately, I do not know when this was built, but it's definitely more modern than what we saw previously. Although in the plan, I hope I have a plan here, it's very symmetrical, but seen, you know, from a side, it's dynamic, it's cubistic, it's modern. I guess my presentation still needs some improvements. I'm afraid I don't have enough material about this building, and this is one of his most important buildings, in my opinion. Yes, I'm unforgivable for this, and I apologize. I should have had more. I think I have another presentation which I couldn't find, or I didn't even search for, with more images, because I remember working also with the plans and the sections. Anyway, if you are interested to see this, how is it called? This work in The Hague, You just type in museum and you'll come across it, Berlage. It's a good work. It's a good work. It's one of his best works, and it's kept, impeccably. Now, this is a city hall. It's a small building from 1928. I mean, smaller than what we just saw. In fact, I discovered it only today, and I'm glad I discovered it because I like it, and it deserves to be part of the presentation. So 1928, almost 100 years ago, the vertical is indeed vertical. And if you compare the building on the right with the building that Berlage built, you understand that indeed he was announcing modernity. I mean, there is a distance, a clear distance between the building on the right and the building that he built. You know, when I look at this building, I really appreciate the contribution of modernity. You know, it's a step forward. It's an optimistic step forward, actually. You know, and without this step forward, we are stuck. You know, it's like living without a horizon of hope. Here I see a horizon of hope, even if modernity passes and maybe passes through crises and difficulties and lack of, self-confidence, maybe. But I think we need to push forward. We need a newness of art, a newness of architecture. Without it, you know, it's like being stuck. And the excellence of good art or good architecture is continuously opening up new territories. I mean, this is a 100 years old building, but still somehow, I think it's inspirational. And again, it shows the complexity, the greatness of Berlage, because this was the man who inspired the opposite art movements, opposite architectural movements. You are going to see a little bit later a building he built in London that is strikingly powerful and original, even by today's standards. Is that building in the vicinity of the famous tower that Sir Norman Foster built. An image from the inside, the interior of this city hall. I like the way they have it seems now they are fans. But the architecture is fresh, I would say, even for today. Now, of course, you know, the pragmatic and the functionalist would say, did this tower need to be so tall? Probably not. It could have been shorter. But architecture is also about expression. And as such, the architect wanted it tall, and tall it became. Okay, another villa. I only have this picture here. You see clearly the influence of Frank Lloyd Wright on Hendrik Berlage. I didn't find other pictures with this building. I would have been curious to find, but the influence is very visible. The influence of Frank Lloyd Wright, who had a great impact on Germany and on the Dutch, and on other countries, of course. But first, he had a great impact there in Europe, and they published the first significant book on the works of Frank Lloyd Wright. Now, the Peace Palace is a project he did. It was not built, but I chose to show it because I think we need in the present also, maybe not palaces, but buildings that proclaim the need for peace. we should never tire, I think, to fight for peace, because it seems the adverse forces are determined to, attack peace. And this is very, very sad. So this is a project, I think he did it for a competition. It was not built. Now, a hotel in Hague, or The Hague, yeah, it almost looks like a hotel, I guess. Very interesting interior, with a very, again, the work with brick is please be kind and turn off the microphone. I hear a noise, and since I talk freely, I make efforts not to say too many stupid things. So it would help if you turn off the microphone, unless you want to say something, and you are very welcome to say. You see, here also there are historicist elements, but all in all, the building has a certain simplicity, although the interior could have belonged to maybe even a different century. Amsterdam Commodities Exchange. This is maybe his most famous building, and it is a remarkable building. It's a massive building. It has a lot of bricks, one above the other, one above the other. The interior is splendid. And look at this. It's architecture with a capital A. There is no need to be falsely modest. It's truly architecture with a capital A. You have, this combination between the knowledge of using iron, using metal, a metallic structure, with maybe some inspiration coming from Viollet-le-Duc, I don't know. And then you have the brickwork, you have arches. It's a lesson in architecture, and it was given to us by Hendrik Petrus Berlage. And there are all kinds of events that take place in this large space. So if you arrive in Amsterdam, you probably will come across it, because it's an important building there. Here you see all kinds of things happening inside this general space by Berlage. Amsterdam. I think the Dutch are so successful in art and in architecture because they are very open-minded. There is an openness. I mean, even today, we have very important architects who are Dutch. If we are to mention just Rem Koolhaas and MVRDV, but there are others. They experiment. They truly. They are not stuck in a style. They continuously search for new things, and it pays, so to speak. So you have Amsterdam, the city which was not destroyed by the Second World War, and we have Rotterdam, which was destroyed in good part, in good measure, or maybe the word good is not the best in this context. It was destroyed, a large percentage. So Rotterdam, the city of the future, and Amsterdam, the city of the past. But the truth is that Amsterdam is also the city of the future if we are considering just the valley, the new addition by MVRDV in Amsterdam, in that large complex of housing units and offices. So the history-loving Amsterdam is actually not at all opposed to the new. It's an open society, the Netherlands, they are open, they are active, they are vital, there is an energy there that I think should inspire many, including ourselves. And the population is not very large, it's actually a little bit smaller, the population of the Netherlands compared to that of Romania. But even here, even if there are some elements of modernity, but you also see details, so to speak, which are informed by a certain past. And the sensitivity of Berlage allows for that past to, be simultaneously present with innovative, modernistic elements. This was the initial plan, and then it became like this, a very large building in Amsterdam. Now, the truth is, even if he is considered the father of modernity in Dutch architecture, there are other architects who are considered also fathers of the modern architecture, like Dudok. And so, but back to Berlage, the Holland House in London, which is a very interesting building, and it's not with reddish bricks, is this one. Let's see now this detail. You see here in the upper left corner the building by Sir Norman Foster. So this, I want to see a picture, the whole of it, just a second, and then we'll come to some details. It's incredible. Well, I guess, well, something you can see it, here. It's still connected somehow with what he did in the Netherlands, but I think he assumed the stringencies of I don't know if I should call them stringencies of the Londonese urban landscape. It's still different from what he did in Amsterdam. I like this building, and it's modern, but it does have. It's not outrageous modern. It still has a level of modernity, but a level of what we call tradition or traditional elements that they are present. It's a building that somehow belongs to us, but somehow belongs to before the war in the 20th century. It does look both ways. And these are the buildings of Berlage. They always do this. And I like this fact that it's difficult to pin it down as being a modern building. Yes, it's an office building, but it has elements like even what is happening here in the corner, which is rather mysterious. I don't know exactly what this mask represents. I don't know if it is some kind of a fountain. It's monumental, it's mysterious, it's figurative, but it's also abstract. He's an architect capable of creating, a certain level of ambiguities, I would say. The interior is, pre-modern, actually, and obviously accommodating what we call ornament. He didn't renounce ornament. And the truth of the matter is, not even Adolf Loos renounced ornament. And I think it's very, very important to bring back ornament to architecture. And this is actually happening in the present. Some very innovative architects today, like Patrick Schumacher, for example, is emphasizing the simultaneous presence of the ornament and structure. The ornament is important. And if we think of the mystical statement by Louis Kahn, that ornament is the adoration of the joint, then I think we should consider very seriously or reconsider very seriously the ornament. Well, here we have ornaments on the floor, we have ornaments on the ceiling, we have ornaments on the lamps, we have ornaments everywhere. And you could say, okay, but this is an almost 100 years old building. Well, yes, but also no, because it's about continuity. It's not, modernity represents a break, but could represent also a break which is accommodating a certain part of what we call history. Or look, this facade, it's modern. We could call it modern. It's like you don't even see the windows. It seems to be an opaque facade, but it's not opaque. I mean, it has windows, and if we didn't see this, maybe some other so-called details, if we only saw this, we'd say this is a very innovative and very modern building. Well, it could be seen in this way, but it could be also seen like negotiating between what we call the past and what we call the present, or even the future. And what is this? It's mysterious. I think this says something about the contemplative nature of Hendrik Berlage. It's a work of fantasy in a way. It's fantastic. It's mysterious. You don't know exactly what it is, but it's engaging. It gives character. It gives personality to the building. Is this a self-portrait, maybe, of Hendrik Berlage? A cryptical self-portrait? I don't know. Maybe he would not have liked this interpretation. And it's true, it was not very flattering, but I just thought of it. Anyway, the interior, it is as it is, all kinds of ceramics. And again, it's the brick, the ceramic, the clay that generated this, covering here, because it is a covering. Maybe even some influences from a very remote past, like Mesopotamia. But look at the surprise of this facade, which was built, more than 90 years ago or so. I think it's remarkable. It really is. Hendrik Berlage, Petrus Berlage, sorry. I don't know exactly how the shadow fell on this, that this picture was taken, but isn't it interesting? I think it is. Now, a Swiss hotel, and like any Swiss hotel, is probably an expensive hotel in Amsterdam. well, it was transformed. I mean, it was, I don't know if initially it was a hotel. They refurbished it, and you know, they put the Switzerland flag there, and it's probably expensive and very comfortable and very civilized and very clean. It's not one of my it's not one of my favorite buildings by Berlage, but he built it. And the view from the inside after the refurbishment, you know, it's what can we say? I don't know if some dramatic changes perhaps didn't take place here. It's possible that they did. I don't know. Now, this building is interesting, and you know, once you become a little bit familiar with the work of Hendrik Berlage, you see a relationship between this building and the building in London. You know, he uses the grid, you know, the regular rhythm, but I wouldn't call him a rationalist, no, because he articulates the identical parts with certain details, if we are to call them so, which show a sensitivity that is beyond beyond rationalism. But it's you know, if I am to express myself in maybe in a banal way, I would say in his work there is an equilibrium between feeling and reason. Reason is shown through, you know, the regularity of the composition, and then feeling is shown through the materials he uses, through some details, a romantic disposition, especially inside the building. We are going to see a little bit later, and this is not going to be a very long presentation, but in a few minutes we'll see a very, very interesting work where you see a lot of spatial, a lot of disposition for a sculptural interior, you know, a vertical space that animates in a sculptural way the building. But towards the outside, you know, even here, the building is it's hybrid, you know, it's both modern and traditionalist, and I think this is Berlage. I like this building. Again, I think it's architecture. Yes, sounds maybe predictable and banal, but with a capital A. Yes, it is. It's not a cathedral, but it's a building built for men on this earth, which has dignity, which has sensitivity, and which has bricks again. And you know, from far away, you could say it's a building that no, it has touches of history, of tradition. It does, but not in an you know embarrassing way at all. Now, this building in Amsterdam from 1898 to 1900, this is an early work by him. I should have had them in a chronological order. But what is surprising about Berlage is that I take much of my information from Wikipedia. Well, both the British, I mean, the English, you know, language Wikipedia and the Dutch language Wikipedia don't show a list, a chronological list of his works. So it's hard to create a material that is rigorously chronological, but maybe this is somehow connected with the spirit of his work, which has you know, ambiguities, hybridity, and so on. Look at this, what is happening at the interior of this building. You know, it's very convincing structurally, and it's very convincing ornamentally, both. So the contemplative man that we saw at the beginning of the presentation in those photographs shows himself, because in a way a building, a good building, is in a way a self-portrait of the architect. it is so. Hendrik Petrus Berlage, happy birthday to you, sir, today. Again, the love of bricks and colored bricks and so on is obvious. It's for all to see. And he knew how to handle it very, very well. And he was also not, shy to, heavily cover the walls with ornaments. Yes, ornaments. Should we only have white walls? I think this is a splendid interior. The outside is maybe not announcing the riches that you discover inside. Now, we'll end this presentation, which is still a work in progress. Maybe next year, if I continue to do this, or someone like him, I celebrate twice, on the day of the birth and on the day when he died. So I will continue to work on it because he does deserve more attention, and he has other works, I imagine. Although I try to go through all of them, but as I said, the information about him is maybe in books. I can find more, but I don't have books on Berlage. Anyway, I will end this presentation with furniture design because he designed a lot of furniture, like other great architects who also designed a lot of furniture. And the chairs, of course, occupy a significant place in the realm of furniture design. Here they are. We begin with this, rather funny chair with 3 legs and with a triangular seat. Is it the most comfortable chair in the world? Probably not. But it is one of the interesting chairs in the world, yes. And architects design often chairs which are maybe a little bit problematic in the field of comfort, but engaging aesthetically. Frank Lloyd Wright was complaining later in his life that he has a certain pain in a certain part of his body because he sat for too long on his own chairs, meaning designed by himself, by him. Here is another chair, very different from the previous one, but we see the sculpturalness that a good designer cannot move away from here as well. You cannot separate function from form. It's form that gives you pleasure, really. Even if the function is my saying, no, I'm sorry, my pleasure derives from a beautifully, comfortably conceived object or building. But architecture is a visual art. You need to address the visual. It's impossible not to. Now, this thing obviously needed, the cushions, but it is interesting even like this, like a massive piece of wood that is supposed to receive a few users on it. This chair is interesting, inspired by, Egypt, probably. Very, very well crafted. And I would have liked to have such a chair in my proximity. Of course, I would not have dared to sit on it This is a chair to look at, not to sit on, although it's very solid, you can tell. Berlage. Architecture, furniture design, design in general, these are beautiful activities, but they are beautiful only to the extent they are creative. If they are not creative, they could be truly painful. Now, this is maybe not so creative unless we consider the little wheels at the bottom. I don't even know if he proposed them like this or made them like this. This chair is, similar to the first one we saw. Architects like triangles, and in this case, the triangle has resoluteness, which is balancing some decorative elements in a way. But it's an interesting piece nevertheless. Another one, that is another chair. And the throne, this is a throne. I don't know if it's for an Egyptian king or for a prince or a princess, but it does have charm. Thank you, and happy birthday, Hendrik Petrus Berlage.